Now, throughout this video, you're gonna see some footage from this movie that might look really weird and be pretty confusing. Well, I'm gonna do my best to explain to you what is going on throughout this movie, but I'm telling you right now, there's a reason why this is considered to be one of the worst movies ever made, as well as probably the most requested review in the history of this show. Hey guys, welcome back to the show, and on this episode, yes, I am finally going to be covering the infamously strange, notoriously awful, The Man Who Saved the World, otherwise known as Turkish Star Wars. And the reason it's called Turkish Star Wars is because, well, it uses a lot of footage from Star Wars. Was this authorized? Of course not. And that's not all. The score for this movie is made up of music from various famous movies and TV shows such as Raiders of the Lost Ark and Battlestar Galactica, just to name a few. And not just occasionally either. In fact, the Raiders March, you know, the Indiana Jones theme, that gets played so many times throughout this movie that I started to get annoyed by it halfway through. So what happens in this movie? That's a good question. I'm still confused by a lot of it, to be honest with you, but I'm going to do my best here based on what I could gather by reading the subtitles. The beginning of the movie throws a lot of information at you in a very short amount of time. Basically what's going on is that far, far into the future, humanity began to search for immortality, but at the same time, Earth was on the brink of destruction, and I don't know, I guess pieces of the Earth broke off and became asteroids, and on some of them life survived. And then there was an alien force that started attacking Earth with powerful lasers, so mankind banded together and came up with an organic shield using the power of the human brain. Yes, a great barrier composed of compressed brain cells which insulated the planet and led to dense clouds of dust which was choking the Earth, but somehow it survived. By the way, this is what it says in the subtitles. I'm trying to condense it the best that I can because this whole opening sequence is basically like 3 minutes long. It just feels like it goes on forever. So I guess only another weapon made from human brain power can penetrate the shield made from human brains, and the alien force doesn't have such a brain. So, suck on it. Then I guess they started searching to try and find this alien enemy, and this is what I take issue with. Why are you going out there looking for trouble? Aren't there enough problems here on Earth? Try solving those first. I mean, you got the brain shield. That's gotta be good for a couple months. But they're like, nope, we gotta find the alien base and destroy it. So these two Turkish pilots, Murat and Ali, fly out into space. And what's funny about this whole thing is that they're just doing rear projection for the background, and the footage is clearly Star Wars, but they're just letting the movie play, so the background footage ends up having cuts in it. You know, it's an edited movie, so in the end it looks like two guys who parked the wrong way at a drive-in movie. Trying to determine what is actually going on just by watching the footage is impossible, since it really makes no sense based on how they cut this together, but whatever. Now there's some smoke and explosions and some spinning smoke. I guess this is supposed to convey them crash landing on this planet. And they're like, holy crap, not only did we survive our ships crashing, but we're totally fine, and there's no debris anywhere in sight. Must be the magic of space. And shooting a movie as fast as humanly possible. So Murat is like, hey, maybe this planet is inhabited completely by women. I have no reason to believe this, it's more like wishful thinking, but hey, Ali, do your famous whistle that no woman can resist. And look, I have no idea if that's actually true or not, which is why I'm just gonna go ahead and recommend to any women in the audience, mute the video for the next few seconds. See, now obviously there's no women on this planet, otherwise they would be all over them by now. And all that whistling just attracted some kind of alien skeleton monsters riding horses, which kind of sucks. But they really had no choice. I mean, if you go to a new planet, the first thing you do is make a lot of noise, because there's a chance that it could get you late, and you can't pass that up. I think what's most surprising about this is the fact that these alien skeleton fighters completely suck ass at fighting. I mean, there's like, what, 6 of these guys with spears? You'd think they'd be proficient when it comes to using them, but nope. They are just getting wrecked, and it's not even close. They're just standing there, waiting to get knocked out. So the guys hop on the horses and take off, but they're no match for these robots with their lasers, and I have no idea what's going on with these guns, so don't ask. Anyways, they're taken to this gladiatorial arena to fight, and this is all overseen by this guy, the Wizard. He doesn't have a name, he's just the Wizard. And his robot is like, all right, everybody listen up, because I'm a robot and I'm going to explain the rules. Never mind the fact that it looks like I'm mostly made out of scraps from a tire yard. I'm totally a robot and not a guy in a giant rubber suit sweating his balls off in the desert. Okay, so the rules are, if you live, you live. And if you die, you die. But if you die, don't be too bummed out about it, because the Wizard takes a lot of joy out of watching it, and it makes him feel young again. It's kind of like when adults go to Disney World, except that it's a lot less expensive and there's not nearly as many annoying kids running around because we just snuff them out. So Murat and Ali are like, hey, this is kind of lame. Let's just beat the crap out of everyone. And they do, but then suddenly the bad guys remember how to use their swords. And the Wizard is like, ah, yeah, that's the good stuff. Earthling blood. How do I know they're from Earth? No time to explain. They're getting away. They manage to hide in this cave with a bunch of other refugees who help them just wipe the blood away. I guess those swords just barely scratched them. Murat keeps cracking jokes, and Ali is like, dude, can't you ever be serious? And Murat is like, no, because that was the problem back on Earth. Everybody was too serious. And I get that, but I think this is kind of a serious situation. Don't you think? I mean, the whole landing on a strange planet and having no way of getting home seems kind of serious. The guys with the guns and the lasers trying to kill you, they seem pretty serious. The whole fighting for your life situation in general, I don't think it gets much more serious than that. All right, so there's this old wise man, and he's like, holy crap, I think these 2 jerks could be our salvation. So he starts talking to them, and he's like, hey, did you see those ruins back there? Yeah, that civilization was very advanced because your ancestors used their technology for the benefit of mankind, not to destroy each other. And they're like, wait, so you mean this is Earth? And he's like, no, you idiots, this is a fragment of Earth that splintered off during the first atomic war, duh. And that Wizard douchebag is the ruler here, and 1,000 years ago, I don't know, someone told him that his hat looked stupid, and ever since then, he's been trying to conquer the Earth. The dude knows how to hold a grudge. Anyways, I guess it's later that night, and suddenly these mummies come to life, sporting what I can only describe as the most non-threatening claws I have ever seen. And then these monsters show up, and so begins this very soft ambush. So they all manage to get away and hide in another part of the cave. I guess this is like their panic room. And the wise man is like, hey, I saw how you handled yourself out there and how you managed to not die, which means only you can save us from the Wizard. Meanwhile, back at the Wizard's house, he's all pissed off at the mummies because they didn't capture the Earthlings, so he's like, all right, you all gotta die now. And, okay, you know what? Yes, it may not be the flashiest way to kill someone, but bucket decapitation is a perfectly acceptable form of execution. It may not be as well known as some of the more popular methods, but it gets the job done, and it's very cost effective, which is good because that guy clearly spent a ton of money on that outfit. Those threads don't come cheap. That is all obviously handmade and bent. So he says that the only monster that can defeat the Earthlings is Dragon. Well, then why didn't you use him in the first place? Anyways, Dragon is exactly what you'd expect. a giant teddy bear monster with strands of tinsel for fingernails. And he just walks right in and starts slaughtering everybody, especially the children, so that the wizard can drink their blood, because that's what he needs to stay young, I guess. You'd think that if you were a wizard, you could cook something else up, you know? Like make something that actually tastes good be the key to immortality? Like tacos, or just a slice of rye bread with butter. That's a nice snack. I could do that every day. Or if you really want to take it up a notch, how about you make it garlic bread? Now, I mean, yeah, now you're, well, at the same time though, what if you don't want to live forever? You know, like at some point you're going to get tired of just being around, and you might want to have some garlic bread. Oh wait, I can't, because that's the key to immortality. Yeah, no, you got to make it something that you could, at some point you could be like, yeah, I could do without. I can't be without garlic bread in my life. I need it. Now there's a lot of movies with training montages out there, but this movie features the stuff that we really want to see, like smacking sand, tying some rocks to your legs and jumping around over and over again, mouth exercises, kicking rocks until they actually combust. Wait, what? And of course, punching and chopping boulders until your hands bleed. But that's okay, because the wise man's daughter will rub some water and flowers on them. Anyways, I guess this is like his family now, and he's like, all right, we're gonna go fight this wizard, so you can just stay here in the middle of nowhere, I guess. Then suddenly, the two of them are in a bar, drinking, because, you know, priorities, and a huge fight breaks out over who has the best Halloween mask. So, of course, these guys get wrapped up in this, and then suddenly the wizard appears, and he's like, hey, yeah, the only reason you survived the crash was because of me. I did that, so I was hoping we could be friends and you guys could help me take over the earth, because even though I'm a wizard with incredible powers, I still need friends. Like cool friends, you know, and you guys seem cool, so why don't you come over to my house? By the way, I kidnapped your girlfriend and this kid. I don't know what the relation is, but I'm pretty sure you're emotionally attached to them, I think. I'm not exactly sure because I have no way of knowing, but I'm a wizard, so that should explain a lot of stuff that doesn't make sense. Okay, yeah, bye. Anyways, they're taken to the wizard palace, where they give Murat a new shirt that really draws attention to the areolas. And what's interesting about this is that the next time we see him a few minutes later, basically in the next scene, he's wearing a slightly different version of the shirt. Now, I don't know exactly what happened, but typically when you're making a movie, it's always a good idea to have at least doubles when it comes to the wardrobe, so that way, if something happens during the shoot, you can swap it out quick and keep rolling. So during my research for this movie, I found out that apparently the creature costumes were really flimsy and that they tended to rip during the fight scenes, requiring overnight patch-ups throughout the shoot. And depending on the order in which they shot the movie, they may have shot a fight scene right after this, and I think it's entirely possible that, you know, the shirt got ripped or something, and since it was probably made by hand, the duplicate didn't end up looking exactly the same. But I'm just taking a guess. And I know it's a super small thing, but I see stuff like this and I'm just interested, you know, what happened? Why is the shirt now slightly different? Anyways, he goes to see the wizard, and the wizard tries to pull a Vader on him. He's like, join me and we'll rule the earth and the stars together. But Murat is like, no, because I'm good and you're evil. So I'm going to defeat you because good always beats evil sometimes. And the wizard is like, listen here, bitch. I have powers that you can't even begin to comprehend. Check it out. I'm gonna turn this giant toothpick into a box. And inside that box is a golden brain. So yeah, that's pretty cool. And once I take your brain, I'll be able to get through that Earth brain shield, and I will rule the planet. And you won't be invited. You know, because you'll be dead. Anyways, look who I have. It's your girlfriend and that young boy who you both have some sort of connection to. So, yeah. Here's a bunch of monsters. They're gonna try and kill you now. And this goes exactly as you'd expect. It makes no sense. I mean, there's like a dozen of these creatures and they don't even land a single blow on this guy. Don't just stand there watching him chop off arms and legs, waiting for your turn. Just jump him all at once. Why is that so hard? So Ali shows up, and finally they're like, hey, let's just shoot him. And both of them drop pretty much instantly. And this is what I don't get. Why didn't you just do this in the first place? And furthermore, you're a wizard. Why is it so hard for you to kill this guy? What, is it because he has a brain? Is that the problem? Is that what's going on here? He's the only person that has one? So the wizard is like, let's bury them alive, and then eventually they'll die. I swear, this guy is worse than a Bond villain. Just kill them now, crack his head open, and take his brain. Why leave anything to chance? And of course, they survive. Wow, you mean to tell me they actually managed to find a way to break out of 2 inches of loose dirt? How impressive. So the wizard is like, nobody escapes my dirt. Take them to the arena. Once we break their spirit, their brains will be more malleable. Okay, wait, you mean you don't want to kill him? You just want to use his brain? Like brainwash him and have him do your bidding, basically? Again, you're a 1,000-year-old wizard who can raise the dead. You mean to tell me you can't just cast a spell on this guy? Alright, so now he's got to fight Ribbon Fingers here, and this is incredibly underwhelming. He's just jumping over top of him again and again and again. Finally, he starts actually doing some damage by jumping on the creature, and then Ali gets involved, but the wizard teleports them back to his lair, and he's like, okay, cool, let's harvest his brain. Now you might think that Murat would be concerned that his friend just disappeared with a monster before his very eyes, but no, he's more interested in staring lovingly at his girlfriend, which is really all they ever do. Why? Why would you think that? Are you not worried for his safety? Like, this guy sees his close friend get captured by a brain-harvesting wizard, and his reaction is, oh, phew, oh, good thing that wasn't me. Well, maybe I can finally take a break now. Anyways, the wise man is like, yeah, so a long time ago, this tribe made a special brass sword and a brain, and my daughter will take you to go find this stuff. So they find the sword, which is guarded by these 2 guys who are dispatched in seconds, and I don't know, maybe they would be better at doing their job of watching over the sword if they could actually see. Anyways, he gets the brain and the sword, and I don't know what I was expecting, but I had to say, it just looks like a piece of wood that's been spray painted, and it doesn't even look like a good sword. It looks like a kid's idea of what a cool sword would look like. So Ali shows up, but it's not really Ali, it's, I don't know. I don't really understand what's going on here. This is clearly footage from something else. Is this a monster designed to look like Ali, I guess? Who knows? The real Ali is being restrained by phone cords while they try to transfer his brain with an angry-looking machine. Meanwhile, Murat takes the sword and goes around killing everyone. Then he breaks into the hideout, finds Ali, and sets him free. Come on, let me try it. Quit hogging it. You know, I want to chop stuff up too. Ever since we got here, you've been the one getting to do all the cool stuff. I was the one who got tied down with phone cords. And that was pretty gross, because one of them kind of got in my mouth. And you know that somebody had their grubby hands all over it at some point, right? I mean, come on. They were probably talking on the phone with their friend, twirling it around in their fingers, and I seriously doubt they cleaned their hands. I don't get the vibe that cleanliness is really a priority for the wizard and his crew. I haven't seen a sink or a toilet since I've been down here. And judging based on that smell, I don't think that there is one. Okay, so the wizard tricks Ali into bringing him the brain and the sword by appearing as the wise man, and I don't know. The brain starts melting, and I guess they're all trapped in a dungeon now. And the wise man notices how bright the sun is, so he puts on a bunch of sunscreen and dies. Ali is pretty tired of this whole thing, and he wants to find a way out of there. And Murat is like, no, not that way. That's the exploding doorway. So at this point, Murat decides that he needs an even better weapon than the sword to defeat the wizard. So he melts down the sword because why have a sword when you can have some gloves? Of course, now he's able to go around and continue doing what he does best, beating up furries and kicking people to death. This fight sequence is probably the part of the movie that I enjoyed the most because it's just hilarious watching him destroy all these creatures in various ways. And in the end, he fights the wizard and chops him in half. So that's good. Alright, so what's the story with this movie? The director of this movie was Çetin Inanç. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. And he was actually nicknamed the Jet Director because he was known for shooting films in as little as 10 days. Now, the crew actually built some spaceship sets and props, but they were destroyed in a storm, which essentially wiped out the special effects budget. So the director used a print of Star Wars from a local theater and spliced some of the footage into this movie. And you must be wondering how they got away with all of this. Well, Turkey had no dedicated film copyright statute until 1986. So during the 1970s and 80s, there was this explosion of Turkish remakes of Western films. Now, there were a variety of cultural and political factors that contributed to that, but in the end, the filmmakers were able to get away with it because there was basically no copyright enforcement in Turkey during that time. So you had Turkish versions of movies like The Wizard of Oz, Rocky, The Exorcist, Rambo. There were 2 versions of E.T., and this is just pure nightmare fuel. And when it came to Turkish Star Wars, the movie was never intended for export, and obviously they would never be able to clear the rights for an official international release or a home video release, which kind of contributed to it becoming a cult film, because it wasn't easy to get a hold of. You would have had to first hear about the movie from someone and then find a bootleg copy of it somehow. Eventually, over time, with word spreading and of course the internet with copying and sharing things, the movie got to the point where it is now, which is a bad movie classic and considered by many to be one of the worst movies ever made. But apparently, this movie was a commercial success in Turkey. If you're a bad movie fan who hasn't seen it, I would totally recommend checking it out. I want to thank all of my supporters on Buy Me a Coffee, Patreon, and my YouTube channel members. I want to thank all of you for tuning in, but that's pretty much it for this one, and I'll see you all next time. Okay, so I was going to initially do this skit in Turkish with subtitles, but it just wouldn't have the same effect, and I'm sorry, but it would have taken a really long time for me to get it right. I will say though that you got to get the right kind of rye bread. You know, you want rye with a lot of moisture in it, and yeah, that with just some butter. Sometimes it's just the simple things. It's delicious.